Yeah.
It's an awesome God he
Got 'em.
reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
Let's go.
Hello friends, and welcome back to the second episode of Chaotic Serenity. Thank y'all for joining me. This week I wanted to talk about something called the butterfly effect. There's been a couple movies made over the years that talk about this concept called the butterfly effect. And it's basically where, let's just say that hypothetically you could go back in time and you could try to alter certain events. And by altering minor events, it could create a drastic snowball type of effect change that just trickles down through time. And just changing one very minute detail could completely alter the direction of a society. I think that God will put these little moments into our lives that are kind of like his sovereign butterfly effect. He will cause certain things to happen that will direct us to certain places that we need to go, or to certain people that he needs us to meet. This past week, we were on a vacation at Great Wolf Lodge in LaGrange, Georgia. We spent a couple days there. It was wonderful. And one of the best things about it is it's so close to home. It's only about an hour and a half away. So we didn't have to drive super far to go on a fun little mini vacation. On the way back, though, I was just hoping that we were going to be able to make it back without having to make too many potty breaks, because we have a 6-year-old daughter and she frequently needs to use the restroom while we travel. But that's to be expected. You know, what can you do? But this time, on our way home, my daughter Meyer was complaining that her stomach was hurting, which was a little bit unusual. I couldn't think of anything she had eaten that should have made her stomach upset. We kind of chalked it up to maybe she just had some car sickness going on. She was looking down in her lap at her tablet because she was playing games and watching some videos. And I know that for myself and for my wife, if we are passengers in a vehicle and we're looking down and not looking at the road, sometimes that motion can cause car sickness, basically. So we were thinking that that's what the problem was, but we told her to put down her tablet and to just, look straight ahead, look out the window, look at the scenery we were driving by, with the hopes that this car sickness would go away. And it didn't. She still continued to complain that her stomach was bothering her. So we decided we were going to pull off and try to find a gas station, somewhere we could stop to see if maybe she needed to use the restroom and if that would help her tummy feel a little bit better. So we ended up pulling off at an exit that was kind of in the middle of nowhere. It was not a very well populated place. There were a couple of gas stations and that was about it. So we pulled off of the highway, got on the exit ramp, and I turned. A couple of gas stations were right there side by side. And we drove around till we found a good spot to park. And after I parked, I stepped out of the van and I noticed there was a guy who looked somewhat disheveled, and he was walking a very large dog, a big pit bull. And I'm not afraid of dogs. I love dogs. I'm a big dog person. And I was looking at this guy kind of walking in my direction, not really sure where he was going or what he was doing. I figured he was just walking his dog and went to the gas station to grab a soda or, whatever, and he was on his way back home. So I'm standing there relatively casual, just kind of checking him out, seeing what he's doing, because he appeared to be walking in my direction, and he kept on walking in my direction. I'm generally a person that doesn't like confrontation, whether it be good or bad. I'm kind of an introvert, and I really don't like to have to talk to people if I don't have to, especially if it's just idle chit-chat. I really don't like idle chit-chat. Hi, how are you? Oh, good, I'm fine. That's just not my thing. So anyways, this guy continues to come in my direction, and he gets probably about 20 feet away, and he says, "Excuse me, sir." And I glance over at him, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy's probably panhandling. He's probably trying to get some money. Maybe he's, an alcoholic. Maybe he's homeless. I don't know what the deal is, but my first knee-jerk reaction was, this guy's looking for money for alcohol or drugs. I really had no reason to believe that, other than the fact that that's oftentimes the stereotype. When we see folks that are living on the street or that appear to be homeless. So this guy asked me if I could help him out. He told me that him and his dog had not eaten in a couple of days, and he was very hungry. And, immediately I think, okay, well, if I give this guy money, first of all, I don't carry cash normally. I would have to go in the van, ask my wife if she had any money, and if I were to give it to him, how do I know he's not just going to go turn around and go back into the gas station and get a 6-pack of beer or whatever? But nevertheless, I went back in the van. I told the guy, hang on just a second, let me see what I can do. Went back in the van, talked to my wife, who many of y'all know, my dear wife, Nicole. And I told her what this gentleman had said. And we had quite a few snacks with us because we were traveling. And when you travel with a child, especially if it's going on vacation, you got to bring snacks. It's a requirement. So we had a couple different little boxes with some residual snack bars in there and a number of individually wrapped items that we could give this guy if he was legitimately hungry. So I went in and started looking around for some snack bars to grab. My wife immediately checks in her purse, and she finds a little bit of money. I think it was like $15 or $16 or something. And she said, "Here, give it to him." And I'm thinking, okay, well, hey, why not? Let's be a blessing to this guy. So I went to the back of the van, and I grabbed a couple bottles of water that we had and a few other snack bars. And I turned around to this guy and I said, we can help you out. Here you go. And when he saw all this stuff that I had in my hands, he was floored. You could tell that he had an expression on his face that I could tell what he was not thinking. He was not thinking, oh, great, I'm looking to get alcohol or drugs and these people gave me food. Great. That was not the expression. This guy looked very happy and very excited, and he almost looked a little bit blown away by the amount of stuff that I had. I had a handful of bottles of water, a handful of snack bars, and a blueberry muffin, and some money as well. And so when I gave it to him, he immediately started to put it in his pocket of his jacket. And he was very appreciative. And he just profusely thanked me and said, this is such a blessing. He caught me a little bit off guard. Especially with that big pit bull, huge dog. And again, I'm not afraid of dogs, but whenever you're around a massive dog, especially a pit bull, you got to be careful. So as this whole interaction was going on, I've got this dog in the corner of my eye, just making sure that it's not going to try to get close or attack me or God forbid if my daughter steps out of the van, something like that. So I was not dedicating 100% of my attention to everything that this gentleman was saying. But he did mention that this was a blessing and it was from God. And that got my attention real quick. So now I'm thinking, okay, this guy is acknowledging that this is a blessing from God. And is it? Is this a blessing from God? For all I know, other people that came before me in this gentleman's life, people may have been praying for this guy. And they may have been asking for God to meet his needs, for God to take care of him. And then lo and behold, we show up in this random parking lot off of some random exit on the expressway, and we show up and we are equipped in such a way that we can kind of at least meet this guy's short-term needs. So it just got me thinking. And, when he told me that it was a blessing from God, I said, that's why we do this. That's why we, meaning Christians, that's why we are supposed to go out and be the church, and why we're supposed to love on people, because of Jesus and what he did for us. And so this gentleman told me that he was actually trying to find a ride to church, but he couldn't find a ride, so he couldn't go. This happened to be on a Sunday morning, early afternoon, when this encounter took place. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to keep you in my prayers. I kind of had a hunch that this guy had really fallen on some bad times and some bad luck. And I just had a feeling that maybe God is trying to work in him. So I told this guy, hey, I will make sure that I keep you in my thoughts and my prayers. And I was getting ready to, turn around and get back in the van and check on my daughter. And we were going to be back on our way, heading back home. And before I could even turn all the way around to walk back to the driver's side of the van, this guy said, hey, can you pray for me now? That was a little bit of a jab. That was convicting. How many times, if you're anything like me, how many times have people they asked you to pray? Pray for me for X, Y, Z. Pray for me for this. Pray for me for that. And I will normally say, yeah, I'll pray for you. And then I go on about my day. And oftentimes I forget to ever pray for them. It just slips my mind. But there have been people in my life that I have known who are very good about praying intentionally on the spot with people when they ask for prayer. That's not my normal bent. That's not the normal direction that I go in. I've been trying to make it a habit, and I've been trying to do better about offering to pray with people right then and there on the spot instead of just saying, yeah, I'll pray for you. So, I'm getting ready to hightail it out of there, and lo and behold, this guy calls me out basically and says, yo, can you pray for me now? So that was a convicting moment. And I said, yeah, of course I will. So I go walk over next to this gentleman, and he reaches his arm out, and he grabs me lovingly, grabs me by my arm, pulls me right up next to him, and he grabs my hand with his hand, and he squeezes it. And he closes his eyes and bows his head. And so I prayed for him. And it was a very powerful and emotional experience, particularly for him, but for me as well. And lo and behold, I didn't know this, but my wife and my daughter were in the van, and they were kind of privy to what was going on, and so they were witnessing this happen as well. And it felt good to know that God used us to be a blessing to someone. And it was good to be able to pray, because the Bible says that, where two or more are gathered, He's in our midst. The Lord is there with us. So there were more than two of us gathered. The Lord was there with us. And, after I got done praying and I said my goodbyes to this guy, and I got to pet his dog, which turned out to be a very sweet dog, although it was probably about 150 pounds, and its head was bigger than mine. Very sweet dog, though. I get back in the van, and we start heading back towards home. We get back on the expressway, and we're driving. And one of the first things that my daughter says to me is, Daddy, what does it mean when somebody's homeless? And she was asking some very mature questions that were very difficult for me to try to answer on the spot in a way that a 6-year-old would be able to kind of comprehend what was going on. So I basically told Meyer, my daughter, that not everybody in the world has got food like we do, or water to drink, or a place to call home, a place that they can sleep at night. Not everybody has that. And, we've had conversations similar to that before with Meyer, but this one really hit home because it wasn't just a distant, far-off conversation about something that she heard about or something that she saw on TV. This was a situation in real life where we had a very up-close and personal experience with someone who, I don't know if he was homeless, but definitely down and out and needing some help. So, I explained to Meyer that what's so interesting about the way God works, at least I find it very interesting, is the way that God orchestrates things behind the scenes, right? So I told Meyer, for all we know, people that met that gentleman at some point before we did, maybe they were praying for him, and they were praying that God would provide for him. And maybe God brought us to cross this guy's path so that we could be a blessing to him. And to make the conversation a little bit more interesting, I told Meyer that, having a tummy ache and having all that trouble with the car sickness and the feelings of nausea, that wasn't fun for Meyer. That wasn't fun for her to be in that mild discomfort while we were driving. But it was because of that discomfort that we pulled off the expressway. If she had not been having any kind of stomach ache going on, we never would have stopped there. We would have kept on driving, and we never would have come across that guy. But for whatever reason, God, who is sovereign, found it fit to allow Meyer to have some tummy problems and allowed them to go on for just the right amount of time to prompt us to pull off the expressway to look for a gas station to stop at. And when we find one, lo and behold, there's our new friend that we met looking for our help. So it's almost kind of like, I think of it like a divine butterfly effect, and there are many times when I look back on my life and I see things like that, where there were certain things that happened that were somewhat out of the ordinary, and because of the way things played out, it put me in a position or in a place to get blessed by someone or to be a blessing to someone. So I found this to be so interesting because it was a great teachable moment. It was a great teachable moment for my daughter. And although it started out kind of uncomfortable and awkward, and I wasn't quite sure how to answer her questions on the fly and in an appropriate way, the Lord made it work. And so tonight I came home from church. I was doing something at church just a little while ago, and my wife was here alone with my daughter, and she had to put her to bed. And as they were saying their prayers, as we normally do before bedtime, my wife tells me that Meyer said that she wanted to pray for this guy, for our new friend, and that she wanted to pray that he would get food, he would get water, he would get shelter, and be able to afford a home. And it just touches my heart in a very, very special way that, that Meyer is still thinking about that guy and that experience. And it happened, a few days ago. This wasn't recent. It didn't just happen today. This was a few days ago. So it was very interesting. But you know what? I'm still feeling guilty and convicted about how bad I am with names. At one point, this gentleman told me his name, and I told him mine. But there was so much stuff that was going on, and it was all happening so fast, and it caught me off guard. I just did not retain his name in my memory. And so now, I just feel bad that I'm still praying for this guy, and I don't even know his name. And I want to ask you guys to pray for him too. Please pray for our friend that we met on the way back from vacation. And you know what, though? It's okay that we don't know his name. We don't need to know his name, because the Lord knows his name, and the Lord is familiar with every hair on this guy's head. And the Lord knows what he needs more than we know what he needs. Is it possible that that guy took the little bit of money we gave him and spent it on inappropriate things, drugs, alcohol? Yeah, maybe it's possible. But is it also possible that that guy was so touched and blessed that we showed some sort of love for a complete stranger, that maybe the Lord is going to use that experience to draw this guy closer to him? And that would be great if that's what ends up happening out of all of this. But, in any case, hey, God is good, and God does amazing things in our lives every single day, every day. And one of the things that came out of this situation is that my wife, Nicole, came up with an idea that we need to carry around blessing bags with us in the vehicle anytime we go anywhere. And what this blessing bag would be is basically a backpack that's got some personal hygiene items in it. It's got some bottles of water. It's got some sort of food that's not perishable, protein bars, snack bars, something like that. Depending on the time of year, maybe a blanket or a sleeping bag if it's the winter time. And, we'd have a bag that's more geared towards a man, and another little backpack bag that's more geared towards a woman. And we put some Bibles in there as well, so that anytime we run into a situation like this, we are prepared we're prepared in advance to love somebody, instead of kind of having to come up with stuff on the fly at the last minute. We want to be prepared. So I encourage you guys to try to find ways in your own lives and in your own walks with God where you can be prepared. You can be prepared for those unexpected encounters, those divine appointments, as I like to call them, where God just uses your circumstances or the circumstances of someone else to put you directly into a place where you can be the answer to a prayer, where you can meet someone's need in the flesh, where you can be the church out in the world. So if you guys would, please drop some comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this. Let me know if you can relate to it, if you have similar stories. Hey, hey, just share your thoughts. But until next time, until we meet again, deuces. I'll see y'all next week.